Yes, we are. We
All
are
right.
all set.
Sweet. All right. 10:16 on time. This is fucking good. Let's just go live right now. What's going on, everyone? We're the Winter Hill Warriors. I'm Chenny. I'm joined by my boy Damon.
Yep.
We are going to break down and give our quick reaction to episode 2 of The Penguin. Early thoughts, Damon, on the episode.
I really liked how this one felt more like an episode of The Sopranos than the first one, almost like just it was set in Gotham. I like the mafia social dynamics, the power struggles lurking underneath the surface. Definitely a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna go scene by scene, take breaks, talk through it. If you've been here before, you know how this goes. If you're in the chat and then there's some shit going down with audio and whatnot, just message us in the chat. I'll be looking at it. But without further ado, let's get right into it. We know Sunday Night Football is going on. Who's playing right now? Do you know?
Bills and Ravens.
Bills Ravens. Fuck, that's a good game. All right. Okay, so we open up the episode and we kind of get this little. At first, I thought it was a flashback. It kind of is a flashback. It's basically Sofia back when she was still at Arkham, and we hear the prisoners call her the Hangman because that's her nickname. And then we see Alberto visiting her, and then Alberto shows his right hand and his pinky's cut off, and then all of a sudden he gets shot from behind. So we know that this is just more of a nightmare that she's having, and all of a sudden she kind of wakes up, and we see that she's actually been in therapy. And I don't know who this dude is. What's his name? Let me see. Give me a second. Dr. Julian Rush is the therapist. He looks so familiar. Do you know what else he's in? This actor?
He was in Sons of Anarchy. I know that.
Okay, he looks so fucking familiar, but he sees Sophia panicking and he ends up just like holding her down, which was kind of sketchy, but I guess that's just what they do. So he holds her down and she finally stops panicking. They kind of do a little bit of breathing exercises and whatnot. And it seemed kind of sketchy, bro, because honestly, he kind of seemed like sexually attracted to her, right? Did you get that vibe too?
Definitely wasn't strictly patient and doctor chemistry going down. There's something from him, the way he was lingering on her a little bit, the way that he got close to her. Like it's got to be some kind of experimental hypnotherapy that they were running, but there's more than meets the eye here for sure.
Yeah. So we know that from this that she's dealing with a lot of trauma. We're gonna find out more about her backstory, but she stares the doc down and then dips out before anything else can happen. And clearly, these therapy sessions right now are not necessarily helping her, but she's trying to fix whatever the fuck she's dealing with right now. And then we jump over to Oz, and he's getting ready to visit Sal Maroni again. And this scene was pretty interesting because when he pulls up to go see Sal Maroni, I thought that all of Maroni's henchmen and stuff were going to be Italian for obvious reasons. But are they like Pakistani or something? They're
I
speaking
know that.
Farsi, right? Something
Yeah, I
like
saw
that.
they were speaking Farsi, so it can't be just like strictly what you would have guessed at first, which did shock me a little bit too. Maybe there's like a twist or something that we haven't really read up on, but yeah, cool new angle.
So I would just Google it, so I'm not making a mistake. But they're Persian. Farsi is a Persian language. But either way, Maroni's working with this Persian crime family, and they're kind of in cahoots together. We got this woman. I think her name is Nadia. She seems like the head of the family, and they've gotten word about Alberto Falcone's death, all of that. So when the Penguin Oz pulls back up to go see Maroni, Maroni knows that Oz set him up and made it look like the Maroni family was responsible for Alberto's death. And Maroni tells Oz, look, I could just go tell the Falcone family right now that it was you, and then you'd be fucked. So what's the deal? And Oz just tells him, look, who cares, right? Like obviously it was me who set you guys up, but either way you're wearing the ring again, so you're clearly flaunting it, and don't you want to go to war with them anyways? And we kind of see that this woman Nadia is the one who's kind of the advisor for Maroni. So Oz kind of pitches a partnership. He says it's the same thing that he said before in episode 1, where, look, I can help you guys intercept the drops that they're going to transport out of Gotham into Robbinsville. You guys can make a ton of money, or at least have a huge drug shipment stash. You can further weaken the Falcone family because they're weak right now. They just lost their leader. The son just died, all of that stuff, and you guys can take over again. So that's basically what Oz's pitch is. Oz's pitch has not changed whatsoever, and we see this time Maroni is actually more open to listen to Oz, and he looks over at Nadia, and Nadia speaks in Farsi and tells Maroni that this man is a dog, but a dog can be made submissive. So somehow Sal Maroni speaks Farsi. That is the biggest fucking curveball that I got in the episode. I was really surprised by that, but he is at least a bilingual man. And side note, Omari Daniels just chatted, nice to see Shades jumping over from Luke Cage. Oh my God, that's where I recognize. Okay,
Yes.
all right, good
Yes.
fucking call, dude. Good fucking call. Oh man, okay. I knew I recognized him from somewhere, but either way, Nadia gives the green light, and Maroni says, "Okay, fine, we'll work with you. You get us the drops as promised, and we can figure this out." One of my capos, Ervad, this big Persian dude, he's gonna run with you, be in on the mission, and the plan is pretty simple. I'm gonna pause real quick before we get into the plan. Thoughts on that so far?
We've seen this episode that Oz is really good at pumping people up, right? One of the strongest lines in here was when he talks to Maroni and says, "You're already gloating. You might as well lean in terms of making good on this." He's elite from a strategic point of view, right? He just kind of spends this whole episode pulling levers and pushing buttons to align himself. We saw a little bit of it in episode 1, but we see a ton of it in episode 2. And I thought it was funny how he was like casing the jail area like before he pulls up, like the boats are going back and forth. The visuals almost made it look like Alcatraz from a distance, which I thought was really awesome. And then it's cool to see Clancy Brown's character like in a prison setting, because he was in Shawshank, right?
Yes, as the guard that was gonna kill our man, right? Until he got accounting advice or something, or tax advice.
There was something in it. Yes, something like that. So seeing another like the jail shots and then a Clancy Brown character sent front and center took me back a little bit.
Yeah, and another thing I forgot to mention is that while Oz is having this conversation with Maroni, he also drops the fact that he knows the late Carmine's brother, Luca. And I guess Luca now is going to be the new Don of the Falcone family, so it's not going to be Sofia. But according to Oz, from his words, Luca is a fucking pussy, and I got his ear. That's what he says. So his whole thing is, look, I'm still part of the Falcone family, and I can help you manipulate Luca, and you guys can basically cripple them. So that's what he suggests, and the plan is pretty simple. They're going to put all the drops from Oz's factory into this FEMA truck, and they're going to make it look like water delivery, right? Something like that. And basically, while they're en route to Robbinsville, they're going to give up the location of the truck, and then they're going to set up an ambush, and that's pretty much it. Now, the issue is Oz can't get caught in this crossfire, so he tells them, look, I'm not going to be in the truck. I'm going to be in the car behind the truck. So just make sure you don't touch the car behind the truck, and then we're all good. But the problem is when it comes time to actually transport the drugs, this dude, we also see this dude Castillo, who was Sofia's henchman, basically, and he was the one torturing Oz from last episode. But either way, we see that when it actually comes time to transport the drugs, I'm trying to skip forward, Johnny Vitti, who's the underboss for the Falcone family, comes in, and he tells Oz, look, you're gonna go in the actual truck. And at first Oz protests, and he's like, look, I can't do that. I gotta be running in the back. But Vitti's just basically like, shut the hell up. You're getting in the truck. You gotta follow orders. So now Oz is in trouble, because when the actual run is being made, he's now gonna be in the crosshairs, right? So it's pretty funny. So already he's in serious shit. Then we actually see the whole robbery scene go down. Oz is in the truck. You could just see the wheels turning the entire time. and they don't get very far before obviously the ambush takes place. Ervad scopes them, and they come through. They start firing off machine guns, and it's pretty easy, right? Like the ambush goes down really easily. But as Oz is in the truck and the ambush is going down, he pulls out his own gun and just shoots everyone. And because he wants everyone dead, so when the doors open up to the truck, that there's no action going on, right? So he can easily be like, all right, chill out, and then he doesn't get killed in the crossfire. So that's basically what happens. He shoots everyone dead, or at least he thinks so. Ervad comes in and opens the door, recognizes Oz, doesn't shoot him, but the driver actually is still alive, turns around, realizes that Oz is a traitor, shoots at Oz, but misses him, hits Ervad right in the neck, basically, putting him in the hospital, essentially. He doesn't kill Ervad, but Ervad is in bad shape, but Ervad manages to shoot the driver and kill him. So then Oz survives, and he leaves the truck and finds, finds Castillo. Castillo's the only one who's still alive. They get in another SUV, and they drive off and escape, and all of a sudden the drops are now lost. So I'm going to pause there. Give me your thoughts on that.
Something that really popped off to me during this one is the little mini rivalry between Johnny and Oz that's brewing here. If you notice, when Johnny enters the room, he just barks the name Penguin at Oz to get his attention, which Oz does not take too kindly to, right? Sometimes a good TV show has some similarities to a video game, where like the first rival that your main character has is not his strongest adversary, but it's like the first thing he's got to overcome. These two, it's really hard to see a world in which they're like going to be able to coexist peacefully, because this is 2 episodes in a row now where Johnny has tried to blatantly disrespect Oz, right?
Yep.
Oz is a terrific improviser when it comes to these plans, right? The layover of the Italian music playing when all this goes down and the truck like rolls away and creates the whole shit show is just hilarious. The music slows down and then zooms in on him at the end of the shot as well for Oz. I feel like this reflects like his pursuit of the plan and how he's already manipulating and melding things in his mind to spin this to his advantage. Right? He's always working.
Yeah, actually, absolutely. Good call on VD calling him the Penguin, because I was reading some stuff on Twitter where they said in the show Oz doesn't want to be called Penguin, right? Because it's derogatory. So he likes to just be known as Oz. So it's really one of those fucked up nicknames that people who don't respect him give him.
Yes, you know that. You like remember that when you were a kid, right? Where like you would have nicknames for your friends, but when other people try to use them, it's just not okay.
Yeah, they're just absolutely derogatory nicknames. Okay, so Oz and Castillo escape, and then they all get called into the Falcone mansion and questioned, essentially, and Oz is playing it off the entire time, basically saying like he saved Castillo's life, all of these things, and Sofia immediately recognizes what's going on, and she says, look, clearly there's got to be a mole in the family, because how else would they have known when the shipment was getting transported and what route it was going? So Sofia's obviously really smart, but right now for the first time we see Luca Falcone, and he's her uncle, and he's the one who's still technically in charge. So he kind of lets her know, look, I'm the one running the show, I make the decisions, and he doesn't really value her opinions very much. And VD is fucking pissed at Oz, so he immediately is just kind of like, yo, Oz, that was obviously on you. Where are the drops? You didn't protect the drops. And Oz is just like, look, I saved Castillo. It is what it is. I'm not the one who fucked up. You're the one who fucked up, right? Oz basically just says, look, I never wanted this transportation to happen. I wanted to keep running the factory. You guys are the ones who wanted to shut down the factory. How can you blame me, right? So it's enough where they don't place blame on him right away. And that's kind of that. Luca tells Sofia that they're going to find the rat. And Sofia is a little bit more gung-ho about trying to find the rat right away. But Luca is a bit more reserved. Maybe he's unsure of himself as a leader. Either way, he's the one who says, look, let's just call it a night right now. No more of this shit. And then as Sofia is walking away, Oz tries to make a play and tell her, look, I can help you figure out who the rat is, and I'm willing to look past you torturing me last episode if you want me to work for you and do whatever it takes to get you on the top. You should be the one calling the shots, right? It's just classic shit, right? Like, you should be the one running this family, not him. You know what I mean? Divide and conquer type shit. And Sofia does not go for it, and she tells him, I don't owe you shit. Fuck you. That's basically it. So I'm going to pause there.
This is his continuation of the dinner scene from episode 1, where his whole goal during that face-to-face was, one, get the suspicion off me, and let's try to see if we can win her over a little bit in terms of us being similar people. He's been trying to work that one pretty strongly. It's a new angle where he sees a conflict that he can take advantage of. It almost seems like any time when Oz has something good come his way, it's because he's using misdirection or he's using trickery to exploit what someone else is going through. He's just sort of a parasite, a likable character for who he is, because he's just not a great dude. We're just endeared to him because we see him in a lot of sensitive moments. And I think there is a lot of humanity to him and like what he's trying to do as a character, and like his insecurities and all this stuff has held him back. But at the end of the day, he is a scheming manipulator in every sense of the word.
Yeah, exactly. So Oz's attempt to kind of get Sofia to be on his side is rebuffed, and then we see him walking with Vic, and he's just basically complaining about how the Falcones have treated him. Says he used to be Carmine's right-hand man, and they never gave him a thank you, and now all of a sudden that Carmine is dead. He's just getting tossed aside. Now, interestingly enough, as they're walking through the streets of Gotham, Vic sees this missing poster, right? This missing sign, and he I don't know if he's paying attention to the girl on the missing sign or just the missing signs in general, but it catches his eye. So that's something to make a note of. We know that most of Vic's neighborhood is now wiped away with the floods caused by the Riddler. So they pull back up to Oz's, this isn't the Iceberg Lounge, right? This is Oz's actual house, right?
Yes.
Or the apartment that he keeps. And
yeah.
Oz is just basically talking shit the entire time about Sofia, all of these things, saying that he's going to end the Falcone family, fuck them. And Vic is bringing some, Vic was in charge of bringing some tacos, and we learned that Oz does not like cilantro. So that was a nice little funny little tidbit. And then he says, look, the girls are on their way. So Oz has some ladies that are pulling up. Meanwhile, we then cut back to Sofia. She's getting driven around by Castillo, and then on the radio we kind of get some more insight on what's been going down in Gotham post the Riddler's attack, and crime is up 42%, which is pretty bad. And then there's rolling power outages, all of this stuff. So Gotham is a fucking mess right now. And then we cut back to Oz's place, and Oz is telling a little story to Vic about this criminal that he used to work for. I think his name was Pinchy Ravegno or something, right? So Oz is kind of giving Vic the stories of that he had when he was young. So he says, look, I got offered a job to be Pinchy's driver, and I said yeah right away, except the only problem was I didn't know how to drive. And this was a Friday, and I was supposed to drive on Monday. So over the weekend, Oz stole a Buick and drove it around, and then got the Buick into a wreck. But by Monday, he was Pinchy's driver. So he's kind of telling this funny story to Vic about how he kind of just seized the day. Yo, good fucking call on the Sopranos reference, because that to me was so similar to when Tony was telling what was his name? No, it wasn't Tony. It was Richie Aprile when he was telling I forget the kid's name, but one of the younger kids, right? I think he was played by the actor from A Bronx Tale. And he was telling him, yeah, Tony, like they robbed that card game, right? It was like Jackie Aprile as well. I think that's what it was, or Jackie Jr. But I don't want to digress too much from this to the Sopranos. But either way, Vic then asked, like, yo, what actually ended up happening to Pinchy? And Oz is like, yeah, he was actually talking to the Fed. So then Carmine fucking killed him after. But then Carmine saw something in me, so he kept me around. At that moment, the ladies arrive. I think they're all basically prostitutes that work for Eve, right? That's
for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, so they pull up, and Vic is pretty young, so he's obviously excited and stuff. I'm going to pause there because obviously there's going to be more to that scene, but thoughts on that?
I just love these Oz and Vic scenes. I feel like the chemistry they have is already impeccable, especially the comedic timing of what goes down here. Like when Oz is first talking about what to do about Sofia getting like an edge on them, he just goes, "Yeah, I know what you're thinking, kid. We can't kill her." And Vic was not even thinking of suggesting that. And it was just like a funny moment to her. Like, yeah, we can't do it. It's like, yeah, okay, all right. Jesus, Vic, I said no cilantro. Like,
Yeah.
it's a nice little back and forth here. And what we see as far as their similarities go is like again, Oz just like loves to find little things about people that he can identify with and work that angle to the bone. Like he sees himself as a self-made man. I don't think he's trying to manipulate Vic as much as he sees Vic as like someone who has like taken a shine to him and he wants to try to actually mentor him. Like feels a sense of accomplishment when he brings Vic along on this stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's like his little buddy who's also there to help him, but like at the same time he's trying to like shine him up a little bit and shape him up to his world. And then there's the little Sofia cutscene in the middle with a radio broadcast where it like mentions that she was the serial killer, like accused of being one, and like
7 women,
that.
right, or something like that.
Yes, and that adds a lot more complexity to her as a character because it's not like she just had a mental breakdown. Like there was something huge connected to how she ends up in Arkham to begin with. So almost like she's painted as more of like a complex, somewhat of a victim figure because it seems like there's more than meets the eye to how she ended up in there.
Yeah. So then next scene, we see that Sophia's actually on a little mission herself. She pulls up to this bar where this detective is at, and he's a drophead, so he's a junkie. We never really get his name. If you figured out his name, let me know, Damon. But I don't think we get his name in the episode. But either way, this detective we see, he's asking the bartender, look, you got any drops? And the bartender or the bar owner tells him, no, we don't have any drops. The city's out of drops right now. There's a drop shortage after the floods and all of that. So Sophia approaches the detective, and we learn that this detective used to work for Carmine. And although half the police force worked for Carmine, this detective in particular was really good at just getting shit done for Carmine until he became a drophead. But either way, Sophia needs his help right now. She says, look, someone in our family gave up when the shipment was getting transported, so we need to find a rat. I don't want to go inside the family to figure this out for obvious reasons, because if the rat is in the family, then the rat will be able to figure this out. So I need your help to go do this. And he's kind of like, yeah, I'm out of the game. But then we see Castillo offer him some drops. He's desperate, so he takes some drops right then and there, and it's enough to convince him to help her find out who the mole is. So that's that. I'm gonna pause there if you have anything to say.
The drop addiction angle is interesting and it adds a whole different dimension to what's going down here in Gotham because it's like the very thing that the gangs are pushing and making all this money off of is just so destructive, especially because we know Gotham is rife with poverty now. So like this is the kind of stuff that's just going to demolish a whole community and like anything positive that's going to sprout up here. But yet it's like they view it as just the way of like grabbing a quick profit here. This is where Sofia really starts to make her moves in the episode, and we see that she's opportunistic as well. Like she knows there's going to be something that she can gain if she can be the one who finds out what's going down here. It also gives her more information and more potential to rise up in the ranks if she knows the angles to work and she knows who's doing what.
Yeah, exactly. So Sophia obviously really capable. She's got her own right hand person in Castillo, and she's not gonna wait around to get orders. She's making moves. We then cut back to Oz's little pad. I gotta say, Oz's pad is fucking sick. I mean, look at the brick, look at the TV, look at the books. I mean, this guy's got a nice pad. So he's got all.
I like it.
Yeah, he's got all the ladies there. They're chilling, and I think Oz, does he get the text right then and there? Yeah, he gets or no, Vic gets a text, right? And it's from someone named Graciela. Where are you? Are you okay? Maybe that's his mom or his grandma or something like that. But either way, Vic is it's 2:45 in the morning as well. So Vic's out here partying, he's doing his thing, and Oz is just kind of telling war stories and all of that. So then, he's also got some of his other people working there, right? So some of the other people
Mhm.
as a part of his operation. I think basically him getting Eve and all of the prostitutes there is just to celebrate and reward his people, right? That's essentially what it is.
Yeah, I think especially with what he's doing now, he has to really make it look like he is still business as usual, aligned within the Falcone crew, and he has people that he trusts and who trust him. So the closer he keeps these guys, the more he's selling the idea that he is loyal to what the Falcones are up to.
Yep, yep. And oh, okay, yeah. So some of those are Falcone's people, I guess, because they're
Or like
talking.
affiliates of him, but they still belong to the Falcone umbrella, right?
Yeah, and they don't know that Oz is a traitor right now because, yeah, okay, got it. Good call there. And then Oz introduces Vic to a woman named Roxy, and who's basically a cam girl, and he kind of sets Vic up with Roxy, right? And is just like, yeah, well, actually no, he says you can't afford her, so it's one of those things where Roxy's much older than Vic, and Oz knows what he's doing, introducing them to, right? He's like dangling, just like, hey, look at this beautiful woman right in front of you. You're too young, kid. You're not on that level yet. And Roxy is, you see the look in her eyes. She's intrigued by Vic, but she also sees some of his innocence, right? So she's kind of talking to him a bit, and Oz goes back into his room, and Eve is worried. Eve is the one running the show, running all these girls, so she's looking over and she's a little bit concerned. Roxy and Vic start talking, and we see that Vic, when he's nervous, he stutters, right? So he starts stuttering a bit. She asks him where he's from, and he says he's from Crown Point, and she's kind of having a pretty savage conversation with him, where when he says he's from Crown Point, her first response is, oh yeah, like didn't everyone there get wiped away or something? Just not being very, not caring or being aware of the sense, how sensitive of a topic that is. And then she asked Vic, how do you know Oz? And Vic says, yeah, I'm his driver. So all of a sudden we kind of see some parallels between Vic and Oz and Pinchy. But we then cut into Oz's room, and we see that he's got blackmail of Johnny Vitti with this woman. We don't know who this woman is yet, but he's got these photographs of Vitti with this woman. So he's stashing that away. And that's when Eve pulls up and basically tells him, look, I'm nervous about this whole thing. Obviously, you're the one who killed Alberto Falcone. That's why you wanted me for an alibi. And what's your whole plan? And Oz says he's going to set up Johnny Vitti to take the fall. And then he's going to start a bigger club than Iceberg Lounge. And he's going to make sure that all of Eve's girls are employed and they have a great spot to make a lot of money, right? And Eve is still nervous about them having a target on her back because she knows that Sofia Falcone is out and she does not want to make enemies with Sofia. But Oz sweet talks her and convinces her to chill, right? So that's pretty much that. And then we also see this quick little scene at the same time where Sofia is sleeping and she's waking up in the middle of the night with PTSD, like just panic attacks, maybe reenacting her getting choked or something like that. And I think she's sleeping in her closet, right? Like she's too paranoid to actually sleep in the actual bed. So she's got this little cot-like thing in her closet.
Yeah, she's got a lot of stuff that she's working through. The marks on her neck, it seems like she's like freshly creating those as well, like summer scars from back at Arkham and previously. But I think she's like re-aggravating them too, or picking them in some ways. One thing that I noticed a lot about Oz in this scene, when you talk about the crew that he has with him, he has this uncanny way of getting respect from the other dudes at the bottom. There's something about Oz that guys who also are in the lower end of the spectrum in terms of trying to climb up the ladder are all like respect him. I think it's probably just because he, on the surface, just looks like a very untalented guy who really shouldn't have any power, but yet he's grinded so hard that he's cut out a pretty decent life for himself. We know that he's not cool with it and he wants more, but I think he's like a cult hero for some of these guys who are just kind of like, if I do this, if I do that, if I like keep my nose down, like I can end up like this guy someday.
Yeah.
One of the things that, yeah, we got.
No, I was just saying he's the employee of the month, right? Like he's the fry cook
Yeah.
that ends up managing the fucking McDonald's and ends up doing pretty well, right? This the classic story. Doesn't go farther than that, but is managing the branch.
Yes, you see that little bit of success there. Maybe he's got a company car or at least a company cell phone too. Vic's stutter that emerges when he gets nervous is similar to some of the stuff that Oz presents that make him an easier target of people picking on him as well. So we saw that come up again when he's talking to the cam girl. Uh, Vic being part of Gotham that went through it during the Riddler's flood is a nice touch as well. Like he's from a disaster zone, a place that's already known in Gotham to be really impoverished even before war went down with the Riddler. So that was a nice piece of info there. Eve is a nice foil for Oz, right? Played by Carmen Yogo. She was Amelia in True Detective season 3. She was awesome in that, and she's doing well in this one too. His schemes do sound pretty harebrained when you run it through a third party, so her skepticism, I think, is pretty healthy. But just like the dudes that he's rallying at his apartment, she does have some hope because of him. So it's like he's offering hope to the hopeless in a way.
Yes. And good fucking call on her being in True Detective season 3. So, all right, let's keep it moving. So the next morning, Eve is about to leave, and Oz gives her a ton of cash. And her and Oz have a great relationship at this point, where she's also like, "Hey, you don't have to give me that much money," but Oz tells her, "No, no, take it." So even though they obviously have like a prostitute John type of relationship, Oz genuinely does seem to care about her, and vice versa. So there is a little bit of an actual relationship there. And at that moment, though, Oz gets a call and he has to return home. And basically, the landlord of the house that his mom rents out, I think his name is Oscar. Either way, Oscar found Oz's mom roaming the streets. And as we had mentioned last episode, she has probably Alzheimer's or dementia, right? Most likely dementia, something like that. So she was
Yes.
wandering around like outside of the house. The landlord finds her, calls Oz, and Oz comes back in to just kind of check on her. And then he gives the landlord some money just to kind of take care of her. And the landlord is worried because her dementia is getting worse. So at some point she's going to be need to put into a clinic. But Oz, or no, his name's not Oscar. It's Caesar. Caesar. My fault.
Uh,
Caesar, classic. But Oz gives some money over to Caesar and is just like, look, just take care of her, okay? So that money is enough to convince Caesar to keep her there. And then Oz is playing some music. He's kind of chatting it up with his mom. He's dancing with her a bit, trying to give her some cheer. And she has these moments where she has moments of clarity, and I think she wants to move out of this house. And Oz says, "Look, in due time." So it seems like Oz has to get his money up in order to move her into a really, really nice house with probably 24/7 care, right? Like his money isn't that high yet where he can do that.
exactly, and I'm pretty sure that the care facilities in Gotham or Gotham are probably going to be nothing special if they're public.
Yeah, exactly. So either way, as this is going down, though, he's completely missed the funeral, or he's missed the actual ceremony. So Vic is the one who reminds him and is like, "Yo, we gotta go to this funeral, right?" So it's Alberto Falcone's funeral. A bit ironic because Oz is the man who killed Alberto. Pulls up in his purple Maz, stumbles across the street, and outside of this funeral, there are protesters yelling to send Sofia back into Arkham. They're yelling, "Hang the hangman," all this shit. And Oz tries to deliver some blackmail, the same photos that he had of Johnny Vitti. He tries to deliver those to Luca as Luca is walking with what looks to be his wife. And Luca just waves him off and is like, "Okay, yeah, whatever, leave me alone." So it's just Sofia left at the funeral. And Oz pulls up there and he speaks a little bit to Sofia. I'm going to pause here if you want to say anything.
For this one, it just seems like even at the beginning, Oz is brutally ignored when he's trying to like offer the evidence up when he's walking in through this. I like the way that they're already being opposed against each other, and the fact that a lot of Sophia's like past, the controversy, her connection to Alberto in general, these things are all sort of coming up and are offering that window of opportunity for Oz in here, right? Who is also, like you said, like the stuff with his mom Mom's losing grip on reality, but he's also not wanting to accept reality at the same time. He has something to prove. I won't let you down. She had something to prove with her brother. Like he was like one of the only people that cared for her, and now she's left alone and isolated. So again, we see the threads between these two characters with Sofia and Oz just keep on popping up. And this is just like a greater opportunity for Oz as well, because she really had no interest in what he was up to before what's about to happen after.
Yeah. Also, the protesters call the Falcones fascists, and during World War II, Italy, man, no one ever brings it up.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Oh,
Look,
man.
I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. They kind of skate right by, right? Your
Yeah, it's
German
like,
buddies get shit, but I'm just saying, my Italian friends never get any shit.
yeah, it's a fair point, man.
All right, so let's keep moving. Uh, so Oz and Sophia actually chat a little bit at this service, and Oz's main method of connecting with people is just kind of bringing up childhood stories and stuff. So
Yep.
she's obviously going through it because her brother was just murdered, and Oz tells her, "Look, when I was younger, my brothers passed away. So we know that Oz had brothers that passed away. His mom didn't even want a service, and she wouldn't get out of bed. She was just in really, really rough shape. Just all that stuff." And it's at this moment, though, that Sophia, I think, gets an update from Castillo, and the detective that she had earlier try to find the mole. He's got an update for her. So Sophia's got to run, and at the same time, Oz gets a text from this number saying we need to meet. So they both got to go meet, and I think the rest of the funeral is being held at the Falcone mansion, and at that mansion in the driveway, we see that the detective has already found Ervad. So Ervad from earlier, who took the gunshot to the neck, he's obviously in critical condition. They got him all up on morphine. He's knocked out. Somehow this detective has been able to kidnap Ervad from the hospital, essentially. And he's got him in the trunk of this car, and he tells Sophia, look, Ervad was part of that raid. We can question him when he wakes up. This detective is really effective, man. And Sofia has Castillo bring Ervad into the basement, but this whole operation is taking place unbeknownst to Luca, right? Luca, Johnny Viti, the rest of the Falcone family are not aware of this operation. This is what we would call an off-the-books operation if this was True Detective.
Yes, that's a fair way of putting it. He seems to have been become pretty coherent since the drops are given back to him too. I don't know what these drops do exactly. I know they're euphoric. I'm not sure if it's more of an up or a down or whatever it is, but clearly it's what this guy has been waiting for a minute now. There is the line at the beginning of when Oz is talking to Sofia as well, where she already knows that he's not super sincere. Like, you weren't even at the ceremony. And he's like, oh yeah, I was in the back. What are you looking for me? Like, yeah, what's going on here? He just tries to schmooze his way out of stuff like that pretty often. So that was an added little wrinkle in here. This is another obstacle for Oz to try to identify with, encounter, because obviously he does not want Ervad talking, because that's not going to spell good for him.
Yes. Also, side note, a friend of a friend, she had a wedding recently, and then one of the dudes that she invited to the wedding, he skipped the entire ceremony and just showed up
for the reception.
Showed up for the reception and actually was walking around talking to people and playing it off as if him and his date were at the whole ceremony. And I think they just went and played mini golf or something. Absolutely fucking wild story.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Jance told me the other day. But okay, so Sophia, obviously we cover the part where she finds Ervad. Then we see that Oz, the number who texted Oz was actually Nadia, and she calls Oz over and says, look, Ervad, our man, has been kidnapped. So what the fuck is going on? You didn't have any of this under control. And they're about to kill Oz, right? They're about to stab Oz and kill him. But he's such a quick thinker, man. He immediately says, yo, relax. Just check my jacket pocket. And they look in the jacket pocket, and it's blackmail photos of Johnny Viti. And Oz says, look, these photos are of Viti with Luca Falcone's wife. So that's obviously going to be a huge problem. And Johnny's been banging Luca Falcone's wife for years. So this is just some of the blackmail that Oz has. And we see that Nadia looks at this and smiles, and she realizes, okay, like, this guy's got some shit, but they still want Ervad back. And she tells Oz, look, go get him back. And don't get him back just for our sake, but for your sake. Because if he wakes up, like you said, and Sofia Falcone is able to torture him and question him, then he's obviously going to spill the beans on fucking Oz. So Oz is cooked right now. And we cut to the what do you call it after the funeral? Like, just when they're kind of, is it just
the wake?
The wake? Is this the wake when they just have food and stuff like that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So at the wake, we see that everyone there, all of the guests there, are kind of staring at Sofia, including including, I think, this blonde woman is Luca's wife. So they're whispering, I can't believe she's out. And it's funny because all of these people are affiliated with the Falcone family. So even if they're not in the crime world, they've probably taken bribes and shit like that. So these people most likely aren't good people, but Sofia is so terrifying that they're whispering about her. And we see Sofia just start eating food with her bare hands. And that seems like this little character quirk that she has, right? Because when she was having lunch with Oz, she was also just eating with her hands.
I think it's both a coping mechanism, but also probably something that she had to do at Arkham. So It might just be that instinct coming back to her, right?
Yep. And so at the same time, Vic and Oz are also driving over to this wake, and as Oz is pulling up, he tells Vic, like, we could die, and Vic's like, should we turn around? And Oz says no. They have a plan. The plan is to plant some jewels on inside Vidi's car, right? So Johnny Vidi has a red Mercedes that's parked there. They're going to try to plant these diamonds in the car. I'm guessing the jewels are from the Falcones. So I think those jewels are probably from the safe at the Iceberg Lounge, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Now, there's going to be some confusing aspects of this later on when the episode ends that maybe you'll shine some light on. But either way, the plan is for Vic to go plant these jewels in the car. And he's really, really fucking nervous because obviously there's going to be security there and stuff. And Oz doesn't really do a good job of telling him how he's going to do it or what he should do. He just tells him, look, just get it done. You could get it done. So Oz he kind of reminds me of my first high school football coach who absolutely fucking sucked. And whenever we would struggle, his entire coaching plan was just be an athlete, which is like the worst fucking advice that you get. He's like, be an athlete. Like,
what does that even mean?
I don't know what it means, but that's basically what Oz tells Vic. And yeah, so then we also get a scene where actually I'm going to pause here if you have thoughts.
All right. Going to the memorial with Sofia, it's clear that everybody's terrified of her. This cannot be good for her trauma flashbacks that she keeps having. And I think in her head, she's slowly learning that, like, fear and power are a fine replacement for the lack of respect and regard that people are giving her and what they already think of her. Not only as an ex-con, suspected murderer, but like the fact that there's this House of Dragon vibe that pops up whenever she's around the older men of power in this family, where they're trying to just keep her away from any position of influence at all costs.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that it's better to be feared than loved reference you brought up, because the Bronx Tale, right? Doesn't Sonny the mobster tells the young kid, he tells him, look, if you're gonna choose one between fear and love, like, it's better to be feared, right? I'm pretty sure he says that. I think that popped up on the timeline. So
yes.
So during this whole wake, Sofia's getting updates from Castillo. They're the only two who know about the body or know about Ervad in the basement, as well as Oz. And Castillo's giving her updates and saying, look, he's still out cold. Oz pulls up and he knows about Ervad as well, so he's got to find a way to get to the basement. So he sneaks around the house and he's kind of scoping out the entire scene. And he does something really interesting. He goes right up to Johnny Vidi and Milos, who are kind of the people from earlier in the episode who were giving Oz the orders to shut down the factory. So Vidi is the underboss, and I'm guessing Milos is another boss, right? Like, he probably works under Johnny Vidi. And Oz comes up and he basically mentions that Ervad is being held in the basement, but he does it in a way which makes it seems like he's upset that they're all in on it and that he wasn't in on it, right? Like he goes, look, you're going to trust one of Sofia's guys over me. You guys got someone in the basement, stuff like that. Now, this is obviously the first time that Johnny Vitti is hearing about this, but Oz is playing it off like he's upset that he wasn't in the loop on this. So really, really fucking sly by this man. This obviously sends Vitti and Milos into a frenzy, and they immediately go and tell Luca that Sofia is doing her own thing, and Luca immediately calls Sofia over, or no, actually no, not at this point, but Sofia walks over. There's this little montage, like childhood clips of Alberto, which is really sad. I would never, like, I've never seen that happen at a wake. Have you ever been to a wake where they're playing like childhood clips of the person who passed?
No, especially when you have the living, emotionally traumatized sister walking around the wake, like into this video room. Like that's very, very unique. But I do like what you said about Oz coming in earlier. He's like kind of like a masterful gaslighter in some ways, where he just can put these ideas into people's head that just grow and grow over time.
Yeah. Yes, he is. He actually does remind me of the dude I was just talking about who skipped the wedding and was just gaslighting everyone at the wedding, saying, "Oh, that reception was so hot in there." Like absolutely, absolute psychopath behavior. Yeah. But Sofia then chugs a little martini, and then she has this interaction with this woman named Carla, who is her cousin, right? So Carla at first gives Sofia a hug. She doesn't seem to be too afraid of Sofia and is like giving her compliments and all of that and is treating her very warmly. They go way back. They used to hang out in Lake Como and hang out with these quote unquote horny Italian boys, I guess. It's what she says. And then Carla's like, look, we should do a girls trip one of these days. And then out of nowhere, Carla's daughter approaches. And then when her daughter, Gia, who's like, she's got to be like 9 or 10, when Gia pulls up, this scene gets kind of tense, and then out of nowhere, Carla gets really, really scared. And I think it's like this scene when she realizes, like, look, Sofia Falcone is a monster, and Sofia kind of fixes something that's in Gia's hair. It's called a barrette or something. I'm not really too sure, but either way, it's very tense. Gia's uncomfortable, and then Sofia actually drops a few like casual threats to Carla, like make sure you keep your daughter safe, like the women in this family, we got to be really careful and stuff. Just very, very, very sketchy shit. And it's at this moment that Johnny Vitti comes out and calls Sofia to the principal's office, right? To Don Luca Falcone's office. So I'm going to pause there before we get into Vic's failed planting attempt.
You could draw some parallels to when Oz is called Penguin by Vitti earlier in the episode, to when Carla holds Gia a little bit tighter when Sofia gets near her, right? It's like a blatant moment of disrespect. It might be because Sofia does have those murder accusations. The victims are all women, right?
Oh, yeah. 7 women. Yep, 7 women.
So maybe like, oh, my daughter could be like part of her like target demo or something is what she's thinking. But both of these characters have scores to settle. And I think that, first of all, brilliant job. Sofia has been one of the most compelling characters in the show. So I really like how they're sort of working in how the world sees her as her main enemy. Like, she doesn't actually have real enemies. Nobody's actually gunning for her. It's just the way that the rest of the world treats her and sees her that she's just never going to be okay with.
Yeah, that's a great fucking call. You're right, because she could come out and everyone obviously is afraid of her, but she's still the rich daughter of Carbine, right? She could just roll around the city, do whatever the fuck she wants. She's loaded. She's all set if she wants it to be that way.
Yes.
Okay, let's cut to Vic. So Vic tries to plant the jewels in Johnny Vitti's Mercedes, gets caught immediately, narrowly runs off and escapes. At this same time, Castillo Castillo also gets called into Luca's office along with Sofia, and this gives our boy Oz the perfect chance to walk in to the basement and find Ervad. And Ervad at this point is finally starting to come to a bit, and Oz tells Ervad, look, Nadia sent me, and when they ask you who was the one who was working on the inside, who was the mole, you got to say that it was Johnny Viti. Say it was Johnny Viti, and I'll get you out of this situation. So Ervad is just starting to wake up from the morphine, and he's like, okay, yeah, sure thing, sure thing. And it's at this moment where he gets a call from Vic, and Vic has gotten away. But Vic tells Oz, look, I wasn't able to get the jewels in Johnny Viti's car. And Oz goes, where are you? Where's the fucking jewels? And Vic says, I had to run, but I still got the pouch. So I think Vic still has the jewels, right? And knowing that they weren't able to plant the jewels in Johnny Viti's car, Oz's plan is essentially spoiled, and now he only has one option, which is to kill Ervad, right? He now, like that's all he can do. So he realizes this, looks over at Ervad, and just pulls out his little pocket knife and just guts him, just absolutely fucking guts him, kills him. It's a very gruesome scene, and then Oz tries to wipe off his knife, and as he escapes the basement, we see that Luca, Sofia, and I think Castillo, along with some other goons, are going in the basement. So we're guessing that while Oz was talking to Ervad up at Luca's office, they were kind of figuring out, what the plan that Sofia had was, right? So Sofia probably came clean. Yes, we kidnapped Ervad, blah, 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 blah. So they walk in to find Ervad stabbed to death. Obviously, red alarms. Sofia tells Luca, look, I warned you that there's a mole. Someone just killed Ervad, so someone here right now is the mole. So Luca tells his goons to shut the doors, keep everyone that was part of the drops transport and ring them in, and we're going to interrogate them. So I'm going to pause there.
I didn't know Oz had this kind of behavior in him. I knew he was going towards this way, but now there's a growing sense that each episode is going to be him falling deeper into this villain role. When he guts Ervad and just says, we all got to make sacrifices, pal. Like, it's almost a comedic level of villainy when he says that. He's leaving a great trail of breadcrumbs too. He's a master improviser, and we're going to see how he wriggles his way out of this one. Very similar to how he got himself out of a jam last episode before he got his arm cut off by razor wire.
Yeah. And Oz is like the comedian that is, his planned material is okay, but it's really a crowd work, right? That yes. Sets the, like, Oz is a crowd work type of comedian, but either way,
like Stavi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I fucking love Stavi. So Oz also gets called in, right? So the whole funeral is still going on, or the wake is going on, and everyone that was part of the drops transport gets called in, including Castillo, and they're going to all get searched, right? So every single person is going to get searched to see if they have the knife on them, and this is obviously really bad because Oz has the knife on him. So he sneakily takes the knife and puts it up his sleeve, and then at that moment, Johnny Viti comes in, and Oz starts talking shit to Johnny Viti, and this was like really, really interesting. I don't know when he did this, but Oz basically scuffles with Viti, and during this scuffle, he uses that as a diversion to plant the knife on Castillo. So at first, I thought he was going to plant the knife on Viti, but he doesn't plant the knife on Viti, plants it on Castillo, and they search Castillo, and they find the knife, and Castillo's like, what the fuck, I'm loyal, He's probably in the biggest shock of his life, and he's begging Sofia, look, that knife was not mine. It doesn't matter. Sofia is blinded by her rage and emotion, so she immediately asks for a gun to kill him, and Castillo's begging for his life, but it doesn't matter. But before Sofia can get the gun, Luca just shoots Castillo in the head and kills him himself, which is also disrespectful to Sofia because Castillo was Sofia's henchman, right? So if anyone was going to take out Castillo, it had to be her. So Luca, her uncle, just kind of stepped in and basically big dogged her. And that's what makes her mad. So she's confronting him about it towards the end. I'm going to pause here.
Yeah. I think that this is the first scene where we get confirmation that people just want Sofia out of their way so that they can make this an easier, cleaner transition here. Trying to ship her off is not going to have a good effect. Now she's just going to ramp up her efforts to try to find some semblance of control and take the power that she thinks is hers, because it's clear that nobody who's already there is trying to do business with her. They see her as a nuisance, a distraction, maybe even a danger in some ways. Oz, at the same time this is going down, causing this ruckus and then making everything like jump to the forefront. Like you said, his improv game is nuts. The way that he can like make things and rattle them up and still look like a good guy. Like all the guys around him watching him make that fuss are like, man, Oz is so loyal to the family right now. Like, Jesus, this guy is great. Like he's still keeping a nice little ruse going on too.
Yeah, and good call mentioning them trying to ship Sofia off because, yes, right after all of this goes down, Sofia confronts her uncle on killing Castillo, and like you said, Luca just brushes Sofia off and says, "Look, why don't you go to Italy? Why don't you vacation in Italy?" And Sofia realizes right away what's going on. They're trying to get rid of her and just get her out of the way. So she agrees and says, "Yeah, you're right, Uncle. I'm gonna go to Italy and use the time away." So now it's time for her to plot, and we see that Johnny Vitti looks over at her, and he kind of senses that too, and Sofia leaves. Then the last few scenes in the episode, I guess they tell Oz to clean up the bodies, right, or get rid of the bodies. So Oz is now responsible for burying Ervad and what's his face, Castillo, and he's got Vic doing all the digging, and at one moment he like flips out on Vic and tells Vic to lay next to the bodies, and he starts just screaming at him and yelling at him, basically threatening to kill Vic, right? But he's not really going to kill Vic. He's just taking his anger out on Vic and just telling him, look, you fucked up bad by not being able to plant the jewels in the car, and you almost got me killed tonight, and blah, 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 right? So then he does spare Vic and tells Vic, look, you just got to be better. Like, you got to make this shit work. I took a chance on you. I saw something in you. Maybe I was wrong. So it's a lot of tough love for Vic. Oz is not exactly a player's coach. He's like a Bill Belichick, if that. Maybe that's giving Oz too much credit. He's like a Bill Parcells. But, yeah.
Yeah, this is the welcome to the league moment for Vic.
Yeah. And at that moment, Oz gets a call from Sofia, and Sofia wants to meet with him. So they meet, and Sofia basically tells Oz, look, the old white guys that are running this family, they want to get me out of here, and I'm going to get rid of them and take over. Essentially, you're going to work with me. But she's got the jewels, right? She's got the jewels. You're going to have to explain me what happened here, because I was a little bit confused. But basically, Oz walks in, and Sofia still thinks that Castillo killed Alberto. And it turns out that the jewels were then found in Castillo's apartment. And she says that the night that Alberto died, he went to go get the jewels. Now, we know from episode 1 that Alberto went to go get the jewels from the Iceberg Lounge. And that's how he came across Oz. And that's how it led to that whole disrespect thing where Oz killed him out of anger, right? So it seems like after Castillo was killed, Oz then had Vic or Oz himself just planted the jewels at Castillo's apartment to kind of just wrap that whole thing up. And it's enough to make it seem like Castillo killed Alberto. And Sofia says, look, those diamonds that we had, those were for me and Alberto. We're going to use those diamonds to go buy that drug shipment. And fuck that now. I'm not gonna let these old fucking men, so basically her uncle, Johnny Vitti, etc., I'm not gonna let them try to put me aside again like I'm nothing. I'm gonna force them to their knees. Are you going to work with me? And Oz is like, yeah, I am. So that ends the episode. But yeah, thoughts on that?
Yeah, the misdirection of the jewels is really the same move as giving Maroni the ring last episode. He's planting something to get an emotional reaction and then more buy-in from somebody with more power than he has. So he's just like going to hermit crab his way through this. He's going to look for a bigger and better shell every time. And this is his version of how he's going to stick the landing here. I thought it was kind of interesting that we got the idea that Sofia was also going to use her brother's drug idea with him. Like she was going to make a lot of money with her brother. And her brother rising at the top was really her only way of also getting more power. So she's not ready to give up on that dream yet either, which she shouldn't be. I mean, if you want to go take it, especially when it comes to organized crime. That's kind of how it works. But Oz is in a position now to keep on moving here. He's given Vic the tough love. He's really, like you said, he's just trying to rattle his cage and make him a little more vicious, My main concern is I don't know if Vic has that in him. And in this episode, we also have some vulnerable loose ends that Oz has inadvertently exposed, right? I think Eve is going to be a target by the end of this for somebody trying to get to Oz. I think eventually someone's going to catch him pulling his bullshit with the switcheroos and stuff. Like, that's not going to go on forever. So he's going to have to clean things up a little bit going forward.
Yeah, and I do like. I think my favorite quote from this episode was when Oz tells Vic, "There ain't no playbook for this shit, kid," and
Yeah.
it's just absolutely excellent. But yeah, that does it for our breakdown for this episode. I think we kept this shit right around an hour, which is incredible. Awesome job, Damon. Any final thoughts before we go?
Not really. I think I'm looking forward to this escalating a little bit because this was a big groundwork episode. We had a couple deaths, but they weren't major players. But eventually these two sides, the Maronis and the Falcones, are going to get closer and closer to war, which is I think when this is going to really start to heat up for us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so appreciate everyone who was on the stream. We'll be back next Sunday with episode 3. Once again, appreciate everyone. We will catch y'all later.
Later.
All right, nice. I think